The machine reading for September 7. 2 Samuel chapter 1. After the death of Saul, when David had returned from defeating the Amalekites, he stayed at Ziklag for 2 days. On the third day, a man arrived from the camp of Saul with his clothes torn and dirt on his head. When he approached David, the man threw himself to the ground. David asked him, "Where are you coming from?" He replied, "I have escaped from the camp of Israel." David inquired, "How are things going? Tell me." He replied, "The people fled from the battle, and many of them fell dead. Even Saul and his son Jonathan are dead." David said to the young man who was telling him this, "How do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead?" The young man said, "I just happened to be on Mount Gilboa and came across Saul leaning on his spear for support. The chariots and leaders of the horsemen were in hot pursuit of him. When he turned around and saw me, he called out to me. I answered, 'Here I am.' He asked me, 'Who are you?' I told him, 'I am an Amalekite.' He said to me, 'Stand over me and finish me off. I'm very dizzy, even though I'm still alive.' So I stood over him and put him to death, since I knew that he couldn't live in such a condition. Then I took the crown which was on his head and the bracelet which was on his arm. I have brought them here to my lord." David then grabbed his own clothes and tore them, as did all the men who were with him. They lamented and wept and fasted until evening, because Saul, his son Jonathan, the Lord's army, and the house of Israel had fallen by the sword. David said to the young man who told this to him, "Where are you from?" He replied, "I am an Amalekite, the son of a resident foreigner." David replied to him, "How is it that you were not afraid to reach out your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?" Then David called one of the soldiers and said, "Come here and strike him down." So he struck him down, and he died. David said to him, "Your blood be on your own head. Your own mouth has testified against you, saying, 'I have put the Lord's anointed to death.'" Then David chanted this lament over Saul and his son Jonathan. He gave instructions that the people of Judah should be taught the bow. Indeed, it is written down in the scroll of the upright one. "The beauty of Israel lies slain on your high places. How the mighty have fallen. Don't report it in Gath. Don't spread the news in the streets of Ashkelon. All the daughters of the Philistines will rejoice. The daughters of the uncircumcised will celebrate. O mountains of Gilboa, may there be no dew or rain on you, nor fields of grain offerings. For it was there that the shield of warriors was defiled. The shield of Saul lies neglected, without oil. From the blood of the slain, from the fat of warriors, the bow of Jonathan was not turned away. The sword of Saul never returned empty." Saul and Jonathan were greatly loved during their lives, and not even in their deaths were they separated. They were swifter than eagles, stronger than lions. O daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet as well as jewelry, who put gold jewelry on your clothes. How the warriors have fallen in the midst of battle. Jonathan lies slain on your high places. I grieve over you, my brother Jonathan. You were very dear to me. Your love was more special to me than the love of women. How the warriors have fallen. The weapons of war are destroyed. First Corinthians chapter 12. With regard to spiritual gifts, brothers and sisters, I do not want you to be uninformed. You know that when you were pagans, you were often led astray by speechless idols, however you were led. So I want you to understand that no one speaking by the Spirit of God says Jesus is cursed, and no one can say Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Spirit. Now there are different gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are different ministries, but the same Lord. And there are different results, but the same God who produces all of them in everyone. To each person, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the benefit of all. For one person is given through the Spirit the message of wisdom, and another the message of knowledge, according to the same Spirit. To another by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, and to another gifts of healing, by the one Spirit, to another performance of miracles, to another prophecy, and to another discernment of spirits, to another different kinds of tongues, and to another the interpretation of tongues. It is one and the same Spirit, distributing as He decides to each person, who produces all these things. For just as the body is one and yet has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so too is Christ. For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks or slaves or free, we were all made to drink of the one Spirit. For in fact the body is not a single member, but many. If the foot says, "Since I am not a hand, I am not part of the body," it does not lose its membership in the body because of that. And if the ear says, "Since I am not an eye, I am not part of the body," it does not lose its membership in the body because of that. If the whole body were an eye, what part would do the hearing? If the whole were an ear, what part would exercise the sense of smell? But as a matter of fact, God has placed each of the members in the body just as He decided. If they were all the same member, where would the body be? So now there are many members, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, "I do not need you," nor in turn can the head say to the foot, "I do not need you." On the contrary, those members that seem to be weaker are essential, and those members we consider less honourable we clothe with greater honour. And our unpresentable members are clothed with dignity, but our presentable members do not need this. Instead, God has blended together the body, giving greater honour to the lesser member, so that there may be no division in the body, but the members may have mutual concern for one another. If one member suffers, everyone suffers with it. If a member is honoured, all rejoice with it. Now you are Christ's body, and each of you is a member of it. And God has placed in the church first apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then miracles, gifts of healing, helps, gifts of leadership, different kinds of tongues. Not all are apostles, are they? Not all are prophets, are they? Not all are teachers, are they? Not all perform miracles, do they? Not all have gifts of healing, do they? Not all speak in tongues, do they? Not all interpret, do they? But you should be eager for the greater gifts. And now I will show you a way that is beyond comparison. Ezekiel chapter 10. As I watched, I saw on the platform above the top of the cherubim something like a sapphire, resembling the shape of a throne, appearing above from among the cherubim and scatter them over the city. He went as I watched. The cherubim were standing on the side of the temple when the man went in, and a cloud filled the inner court. Then the glory of the Lord arose from the cherub and moved to the threshold of the temple. The temple was filled with the cloud, while the court was filled with the brightness of the Lord's glory. The sound of the wings of the cherubim could be heard from the outer court, like the sound of the sovereign God when He speaks. When the Lord commanded the man dressed in linen, "Take fire from within the wheelwork, from among the cherubim," the man went in and stood by one of the wheels. Then one of the cherubim stretched out his hand toward the fire that was among the cherubim. He took some and put it into the wheels of the man dressed in linen, into the hands of the man dressed in linen, who took it and left. The cherubim appeared to have the form of human hands under their wings. As I watched, I noticed 4 wheels by the cherubim, one wheel beside each cherub. The wheels gleamed like jasper. As for their appearance, all 4 of them looked the same, something like a wheel within a wheel. When they moved, they would go in any of the 4 directions they faced without turning as they moved. In the direction the head would turn, they would follow without turning as they moved, along with their entire bodies, their backs, their hands, and their wings. The wheels of the 4 of them were full of eyes all around. As for their wheels, they were called the wheelwork. As I listened, each of the cherubim had 4 faces. The first was the face of a cherub, the second like that of a man, the third that of a lion, and the fourth that of an eagle. The cherubim rose up. These were the living beings I saw at the Kibar River. When the cherubim moved, the wheels moved beside them. When the cherubim spread their wings to rise from the ground, the wheels did not move from their side. When the cherubim stood still, the wheels stood still, and when they rose up, the wheels stood up with them, for the spirit of the living beings was in the wheels. Then the glory of the Lord moved away from the threshold of the temple and stopped above the cherubim. The cherubim spread their wings, and they rose up from the earth while I watched. When they went, the wheels went alongside them. They stopped at the entrance to the east gate of the Lord's temple as the glory of the God of Israel hovered above them. These were the living creatures that I saw at the Kibar River underneath the God of Israel. I knew that they were cherubim. Each had 4 faces, each had 4 wings, and the form of human hands under the wings. As for the form of their faces, they were the faces whose appearance I had seen at the Kibar River. Each one moved straight ahead. Psalm 49. For the music director, a psalm by the Korahites. Listen to this, all you nations. Pay attention, all you inhabitants of the world. Pay attention, all you people, both rich and poor. I will declare a wise saying. I will share my profound thoughts. I will learn a song that imparts wisdom. I will then sing my insightful song to the accompaniment of a harp. Why should I be afraid in times of trouble, when the sinful deeds of deceptive men threaten to overwhelm me? They trust in their wealth and boast in their great riches. Certainly a man cannot rescue his brother. He cannot pay God an adequate ransom price. The ransom price for human life is too high, and people go to their final destiny. So that he might continue to live forever and not experience death. Surely one sees that even wise people die. Fools and spiritually insensitive people all pass away and leave their wealth to others. Their grave becomes their permanent residence, their eternal dwelling place. They name their lands after themselves, but, despite their wealth, people do not last. They are like animals that perish. This is the destiny of fools and of those who approve of their philosophy. They will travel to Sheol like sheep, with death as their shepherd. The godly will rule over them when the day of vindication dawns. Sheol will consume. May men praise you, for you have done well. But he will join his ancestors. They will never again see the light of day. Wealthy people do not understand. They are like animals that perish. This is the word of the Lord.